So in A-level politics, we really want students who just love to debate. This is such a discursive topic and area and subject, and we try to have debates every lesson where possible. You have to be able to be quite confident in sharing your views with others, but also being respectful as well. So being argumentative, but in a really positive way, I would say. This is an essay writing course. You know, you have to be able to articulate those views in a balanced way and be able to write really clearly with an excellent structure, which of course we will teach you. And we also want students who are intellectually curious as well. You have to be watching the news, watching Newsnight, reading newspapers and brilliant magazines like The Economist to really develop your understanding of not only the UK, but the world we live in, and bringing in that knowledge to every lesson. Because we will teach you the theory, but you need to make those connections and bring that together. So we're looking for enthusiastic students who relish a debate, students who are also unafraid to really articulate their views in writing and read around the subject, engaged with politics. Yeah, so in the first year, you get to focus purely on Britain, the UK. So there are two papers in the sort of first year we cover, which is paper 1, UK politics, where we start off looking at democracy and participation. Should prisoners get rights to vote, for example? Likewise, are there real issues with our democratic system? Why don't people go out to vote in general elections or indeed local elections? We then look at political parties, so we look at their history, how they are funded, and also some of the really interesting, infighting that is going on, especially at the moment within the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. We also look at electoral systems, so is first past the post the best system? Or are alternative systems or proportional representation systems better for us as the electorate and of course democracy? And we link that in by looking at devolved parliaments like in Scotland and in Wales. And finally, we look at the role of the media and how that influences voting behaviour. So if you're somebody who's a little bit interested in psychology, this is really interesting. So how do big publications such as The Sun, the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail, what influence did they have on Boris Johnson's amazing victory in December 2019? Paper 2 is UK government, and we actually mix up the two units together actually, so we don't teach them in order, we kind of look at those connections, because in paper 2, UK government, you have to be able to make those synoptic links back to UK politics. So we look at the constitution. You know, why does Britain not have a codified constitution? How does that compare, and the challenges and debates around that? We look at Westminster and, you know, should Lords be abolished, for example? Is that, again, undemocratic? As well as the way in which laws become law. So how does a bill start off? How does it eventually become a piece of British legislation? As well as the various ways in which MPs behave and what their function is in the legislature. We then look at the executive, one of my favourite topics, looking at number 10 itself in many respects and power of the Prime Minister. We've just had some amazing presentations from our students looking at different prime ministerial case studies and again the power dynamics within them. So what made Theresa May such a weak Prime Minister compared to, say, Margaret Thatcher, who is viewed as a very strong PM? And finally, we look at the relationship between all the branches. So the relationship between the executive, the relationship between Parliament and the judiciary, so the Supreme Court. So if you're somebody who's into law, this is great because you really get to see what happens there. We also study, as part of paper 1 and paper 2, the core ideologies, which are conservatism, socialism and liberalism. So we bring a lot of philosophy into this as well, which is absolutely key for politics. And we also look at our non-core, which is part of the second paper, where we look at feminism. And we look at sort of feminist theory and developments, and again, how has that affected politics? Now in year 2, you have a really interesting choice. You've either got, for paper 3, global, which is essentially international relations, and then you've either got USA, which is looking at the US political system and government. So if you're somebody who's interested in what is happening at the moment in Israel and the Gaza Strip, for example, and the Middle East, as well as the role of the UN and other elements of international politics, then global is probably for you. It works really, really well with economics. So you're looking at globalization, a bit of geography as well, the role of the IMF, and so forth. With America, it's a great year because in 2024 we've got an election happening. So you're looking at the political system in America. How does that work? And drawing those comparisons with the UK, as well as looking at US government as well. So those comparisons between the UK and the US are absolutely key. And if you're interested in how America functions, how it works, the history as well as the philosophy, looking at why did the Supreme Court really crack down on abortion rights, all of that is something you will study in the US component. It is a 100% exam. We have 3 exams and they are 2 hours each. So I'm afraid there is no coursework with politics, hence why you've got to be somebody who enjoys writing essays, because you will be writing quite a few of them. In politics, we have some amazing opportunities. So for example, we get a chance to visit the Welsh Senedd when we look at devolution, and that's a brilliant trip, very close by in Cardiff. You actually get to see how the Senedd works, and the students really enjoy it. Likewise, we have actually got a virtual talk with the Lord. So as part of engaging students in politics, we have got a Lord speaking to us via Zoom to talk about what it is like to be a Lord or a Baroness, and the students can ask questions as well. We also have trips to Westminster itself, so to visit the Houses of Parliament and the House of Lords, which is a fantastic opportunity, as well as visiting the Supreme Court as well. So you actually get to see those institutions in the flesh. Likewise, we've got some great links with the University of Gloucestershire as well, so sort of working on creating sort of a model UN. We also have Debating Society at the college, which I run with Laurie Moss, who does philosophy. So again, that crossover between the subjects, which is really fantastic. And because 2024 is such an exciting year, we've got a general election happening. We don't know when yet, but we're also looking at bringing in local candidates who are vying for your vote in Cirencester, and actually bringing them together and getting them to also speak to our students. Yeah, so a lot of students who study politics, a lot of them choose university, so they either go on to study politics itself, international relations, history and politics, or law actually. So quite a few students of ours have gone on to study law. There's a great crossover between the 2 subjects. Likewise, previously we've had a successful student go to Magdalen College, Oxford to study politics, philosophy and economics, which is one of the most prestigious degrees you can do at the moment. So we've had lots of success with students going on to further study, as well as some students deciding, actually, I want to go on to do apprenticeships as well. What I love about teaching at Cirencester is that you get such an amazing variety of students from different backgrounds who bring their own energy, which is really great. It's also lovely just to teach students who are so much more mature. They actually want to come here, they want to develop those skills which will see them through into their adulthood, which is fantastic. And every day is different as well. There are so many great opportunities for students to engage in. The extracurricular provision is fantastic, and it's such a warm and welcoming environment. And we do have such high expectations of our students, and on the whole, they are there to meet them.